Hello again. Welcome to another QuantInsti webinar, and this is your host Kshitij Maurya. Today's session on ChatGPT and machine learning in trading will be conducted by Varun Kumar Pothula, who is a quantitative analyst at QuantInsti. He is joining us from Rajamundry, Andhra Pradesh, India. Hey Varun, can you hear me?
Hi, Siddhesh. Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. So thank you for taking out your time and joining us today, Varun. Quick introduction to Varun. So Varun holds a master's degree in financial engineering. He has experience working as a trader, a global macro analyst, and also an algo trading strategist. He's currently working in the content and research team at QuantInsti as a quantitative analyst, and his contributions help in creating offerings for learners in the domain of algorithmic and quantitative trading. Now, before we start with today's session, please note that we will be answering all your questions at the end of the presentation. So please make sure that you are putting all your doubts and questions in the questions panel. And also, please note that this session will be recorded and will be uploaded on our QuantInsti's YouTube channel. So please make sure to subscribe to our channel, and you will be getting these recordings through email as well. So without wasting any time, let's straight dive into today's learning session on ChatGPT. Varun, the stage is yours.
Thanks for the introduction, Siddhesh. So my screen is visible, right? It's clear, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for the confirmation. So welcome everyone for this session on ChatGPT and ML in trading. So in today's session, we're going to start with a bit of an introduction of ML and why people are using ML in trading and what is the need for ChatGPT sort of applications. And then we'll understand what ChatGPT is and also the applications of machine learning in trading. And then we'll go ahead and see how we can integrate ChatGPT with ML and how can we take assistance of ChatGPT for application of ML in trade. And then we'll discuss the important part, which is what are the challenges of using ChatGPT and also risk associated with it for our good trading. And then we will end the session with a few key takeaways and also a question and answer session. So before we move forward, I would like to understand the audience and your expertise with this concept. So Kshitij will be launching a poll. So please take a minute of time and answer the poll.
I hope all of you can see the poll. So the poll is please select the options that the best describes your experience with ChatGPT and machine learning for trading. Select one of the following. So actively use machine learning for algo trading, actively use ChatGPT for algo trading, actively use both ChatGPT and machine learning for algo trading, no prior experience with ChatGPT and machine learning for algo trading. So we have received almost 50% of the votes so far. I would request everyone to uh, put their answers here. We'll wait for 10 more seconds. All right, 3, 2, 1, and we're done. I'll close the poll. So here are the results. So if you can see, 76% people said no prior experience with ChatGPT and machine learning for trading.
Thanks for the poll, Kshitij, and thanks everyone for participating. So we just launched this poll to understand the audience and so that I can paste the presentation today. So let's move ahead. And as you might have already observed over the past few years, so ML has had a significant impact on trading industry. So why is that? The main reason is because of significant increase of data. So now in the information era, everyone has access to data. So with this increasing amount of data available, people like traders and investors are now able to use ML algorithms. But why are they using it? So they are using it to study the market trends and to understand the patterns in the data. But this was not possible before the application of ML. So since the ML is widely available now, people are able to understand the trends and patterns using ML. But particularly for algo trading, it is machine learning is proven to be very useful. So the topmost application of ML is to develop and optimize trading strategies. So, but how would they do that? So they do it by analyzing historical data. So they analyze the data, identify patterns and relationships, and this particular study is used to forecast or predict future market movements. So this is actually very useful information because this will enable traders to make more informed trading decisions. So as the industry started to apply machine learning, so there are several techniques that ML produced, and one promising development in this field is basically to use NLP, which is natural language processing. So models like BERT, and currently the most trended model is ChatGPT. So, but why do we use these NLP models? So the main advantage of these NLP models are they are able to analyze the text and also understand the text. So that word natural language indicates that it's like the way we converse. So it's a natural language process. So it makes it possible to extract very valuable information from text sources such as news articles, social media posts, and other textual sources like financial statements, etc. So now when it comes to ChatGPT, so ChatGPT is a large language model. It is developed by a company called OpenAI. So this is particularly well suited for this task. So the main advantage of ChatGPT is it is able to generate natural sounding responses to text prompts. So if you give a prompt to it, it would reply with the tone that how a normal human would converse. So that's why it says natural sounding responses. So it makes it possible to engage in conversational queries, and you would also receive detailed responses about trading opportunities depending on the prompt you give. So as we move forward in this session, you would also see how we can ask ChatGPT to expectations of finance community exactly on the use of ChatGPT. Like what are we expecting? So finance community has high expectations for ChatGPT, especially in the context of algo trading. So, for example, as we were discussing earlier, ChatGPT can be used to analyze news articles. It can be used to analyze social media posts, and just like you must have read, so we do it to identify trends and market sentiment. And it can also be used to generate trading signals, and it can also give you insights on financial data you would give as input to ChatGPT. So in addition to it, it's widely expected to help us to develop and optimize trading strategies. This is the main expectation of ChatGPT from our algo trading community. But now we will understand, is there any possibility for ChatGPT to meet these expectations? So are there any potential challenges that is associated with it, and what is holding back ChatGPT to meet the expectations, or is it really meeting the expectations? So to study this or to understand the impact, let's first understand ChatGPT in an intuitive manner. So, so basically, ChatGPT is based on generative pre-trained transformer architecture. So the name might sound complex, but it's nothing but a neural network that is trained on a large amount of text data. So basically, this ChatGPT model is trained on vast corpus of text data. So this will allow the ChatGPT or the model to learn the nuances of language, nuances of natural language, and it would generate coherent and contextual and appropriate responses. So the responses are not only coherent, but they are contextual. They stick to the context you set. So these are the key features of ChatGPT. But in addition to conversational capabilities, what do we look forward in ChatGPT as an algo trader? We look forward for sentiment analysis, classification of text or generating text, etc. So overall, in a normal sense, ChatGPT has wide range of applications in various industries. But when it comes to trading, so it has high expectations. So let's see how we can integrate ChatGPT in machine learning. But before we go to integration part, let's understand how machine learning is applied in trading so that we'll be equipped with enough intuition to see how it's integrated. So machine learning in trading, but whenever see 70% of you people have responded that you haven't used machine learning or ChatGPT, right? So there is a common question you might get, like what is the difference between AI, machine learning, and deep learning? So let's first attend that. So forget about the textbook definitions. I'll give you an intuitive understanding. So when we say artificial intelligence, so that basically artificial intelligence gives machines ability to simulate human behavior. So it will teach machines like how to behave like humans and eventually take decisions as intelligence or better than humans. But then how would it do it? So machine learning is a part of artificial intelligence. So machine learning is a collection of techniques, or you can say collection of algorithms in AI. So which actually teaches the machine. That's why the name is machine learning. Here the machine will learn. So we will deploy certain techniques in AI through ML, so that machine will learn, will teach the machine. But this is not the only objective of AI, right? We would also want the machine to take decisions, take actions in real life. So the specialization of the techniques that helps the machine to take actions are in deep learning. Again, deep learning is part of machine learning. So it uses artificial neural networks. Most of you might have heard the word neural networks. And so these neural networks helps the machine to learn the data, understand the complex relations in the data, and eventually take intelligent decisions like a human would. So this is about AI, ML, and deep learning. So essentially, ML is nothing but a subset of AI, and which could learn from the data and also make predictions, which would help you to take decisions basically. So now that you got a basic intuition of ML, let's see how a typical architecture or typical workflow of ML is there in algo trading. So if you want to apply any machine learning algorithm or an architecture to ML, so these are the steps you follow. So first you will collect the data. So it can be as simple as OHLC data. When we say OHLC, it's open, high, low, close data. You can start with a simple price data and go ahead with your ML algorithm. Or you can also use a bit complicated data like fundamental data or economic data, news data, social media data. So any data you can use. And on a high level, I'm giving you the steps. The first step would be to collect the data, and the second step would be to pre-process the data. You can't just use the raw data. Instead, you need to process the data like for let's say you collected 30 years of data, but you don't want to use all 30 years. Let's say you want to use only 20 years. So you will just remove the unwanted observations from the data, and then you fix the structural errors. You will study whether the data is correct or not, or is the data is in a sequence or not, and then you will remove some unwanted outliers or NaN values. If there is any structural difference in the data, you will pre-process it. So once you pre-process, now the data is ready, and the next step is feature engineering. So this is one of the main parts of machine learning architecture where, see, from raw data, machine can't learn anything. Instead, you need to convert the data in such a way that machine can learn important information from the data. So that is called feature engineering. So in a fundamental level, it's about converting raw data into features or attributes from which a machine can learn. So this is a kind of a part one of machine learning. When once it is done, so this is the raw data you have taken, but once you engineer certain features, so this is how it looks. For example, here there are additional columns called S3, S15, S60, which indicates moving averages. So instead of just giving OHLC, I'm also giving moving average data to the model, and also I'm giving correlation, standard deviation, etc., etc. So this is just for an example. You can add any kind of feature you want. So raw data is converted to feature data through feature engineering. Now this data is we need to do certain modifications. So for example, we need to specify to the model that what is the input and what is output. So these are called like dependent variables and independent variables. So basically you will say what is the input to the model, which generally represented by X. What is the output for the data set, which is generally represented by Y. And then you will split the data into train and test. Again, this is also an important part. So you will divide the data into two parts such that you will train the model on one part and then test the model performance on another part. This is basically, think of it like you're teaching a student. So you will teach him on certain information, and then when you're testing, you will give him a new information, see how we retain the information and understand. So that's the same procedure followed. And then we came to the end of the architecture where you build the model on the trained data. So model is nothing but an equation. So equation that explains the relation between the input and output. And once you build the model, then you test it on the new data. So now that the ML model has learned, now you will see how it's responding to the new data. And if you're happy with the performance, you will go ahead with your predictions. So technically, this is the process of how ML is applied in most of the cases in algo trading. Now you got the intuition of how ML is applied. Now let's see how we can integrate it with ChatGPT. Like, where does ChatGPT come in this picture, and how could it help us to ease the process or what to do? So for this, instead of discussing the theory, to make it interesting, let's take an example. Let's take a problem statement and see how we can solve it. So let's take a problem statement of predicting high and low of an asset for the next trading day. Here, let's take gold. So let's say gold commodity. So we will create an ML algorithm that's going to predict what could be tomorrow's high and low. So we will use a simple linear regression in this case. So generally, we've been seeing people using using ChatGPT as an assist when they're taking an approach to solve any kind of problem in ML. So let's ask ChatGPT and see what kind of approach it would give, and then compare it with a more professional quantitative approach. So this is the prompt I gave to ChatGPT. So I would read it out. So I said, I'm creating a linear regression model to predict the high and low of gold prices for the next day. So I asked it, can you give me complete pipeline to make the algorithm deployment ready? And give me a list of steps that need to be done as a quant would do. So basically I asked it like, make it more professional, and I wanted it to be deployment ready. And let's see what it responds with. So yeah, it looks like a lots of text, but I'll explain you in a simpler way. So it gave 9 points. So in a sequence. So again, earlier also we discussed how an ML algorithm should be done. So it explained in a similar manner. It asked us to collect and clean data, create the model and pipelines, etc. And then asked us to check if the data API is working properly or not. And asked us to do live trading also, like what do you say, paper trading also, to see the performance. And at the end, if you are happy with paper trading, it asks us to deploy to the production and continuously improve every day. So this is a reply from ChatGPT. But it might look straightforward and easy, but this is not how a professional would approach. Almost it is similar to this, but let's see how a professional would approach. So let's go to one of our courses and see how a professional would solve this problem. So this is our landing page, course landing page. Let's go to machine learning with regression course. So we have a session or a section dedicated for this problem statement. So I'll just open the notebook and let's see how the code is and what is the flow to solve this problem. So as you can see, this is the pipeline or the flow you would take to solve the problem. So the complete, all steps are divided into 4 parts. First, you prepare the data, part one. Part two would be we pre-process the data and predict the prices. And then you do strategy analytics, and then performance analysis. If you see, ChatGPT basically asked us to do these steps, but it didn't specifically ask us to do performance analysis. So this is an important step. So this is called backtesting. So before you deploy any strategy, you would backtest the strategy very keenly, understand how the signals are generated, how the strategy performance is, and how the individual trade performs. So this is the difference between a professional approach and a language model like ChatGPT would ask you to do. So you can use it for idea generation. So, but you can't just use it directly. You need to be more nuanced, and you need to understand each concept in detail so that you'll get an intuitive understanding of where the mistakes could go, or what are the important steps that could be taken. For example, let's go through this notebook. This explains the first part, which is data preparation. So here we just imported the necessary libraries for the code, and we were reading gold prices data. So this is the gold prices data. We have data from 2013. And first step, as we were discussing, we just plot the data and see if there are any structural breaks. Is there any missing data, etc. Currently, there is no missing data. We will see outliers. Suddenly, a price might be here. So it's continuously falling, and if there is a sudden increase, and that might be an outlier. So those kind of things we would see, and we'll check if there are any NaN values. And yeah, that is the basic step. And then we will see what are the input parameters. Earlier we discussed for an ML model, first we will divide the data into input and output. So here I created some features. So features on moving averages, correlation, standard deviation, etc. And following that, I've divided into X and Y data sets. So this again the same thing we discussed. We will divide into input variable and output variable, input data set and output data set. And once that, so this is the part one. This is the first part of machine learning, like first steps and continuously solving this problem. But you might have already heard lots of people using ChatGPT to generate code. So let's see how it is done. So before we go that, So let me launch a poll. So I would request Sijit to launch a poll. Can you launch the second poll, Sijit?
Sure. So the second poll is about which of the following statement best describes ChatGPT's ability to generate code and its accuracy. So options are 100% accurate code generate, uh, reasonable accuracy, not suitable for complex programming. Third one is poor accuracy, require significant post processing. And third one is cannot be used for generating codes. So please put your answers. Half of the audience have shared their answers. I would request others to please share as well. All right, so I'm going to close this poll now. And here are the results. So 74% of audience is saying reasonable accuracy, not suitable for complex programming.
Thanks for the purchases. So yeah, you guys are right. So it can give you reasonable accurate code, but then for complex tasks, you shouldn't rely on the code. But how do we define a complex task? So in a way, complex task is or complex programming task is something that requires domain expertise, like you guys or like any algo trader who is creating code for application memory in algo trading, let's say. So let's go to our codes and see, like, let's generate code for any of this part and see how ChatGPT responds and also test. Let's just test the code accuracy. So this is about the part one, which is data preparation. Let's go to the second one, which is data pre-processing, which would be code heavy, and see how ChatGPT would respond to the same. And we will also test that code and see if there are any errors. So in the second part, the first step would be to split the data. So far what we have done, so far we have got the data, like checked for NaN values or created independent and dependent variables. All these things were done. So now important step is to split the train and test data. So let's ask ChatGPT to give a Python code so that it can split the data into 70% and 30%. Let's just run this notebook, and meanwhile let's go to ChatGPT and see what its response is. So this is the prompt. This was a prompt I gave. Give me Python code to split the input data for a linear regression model into test and train data with a ratio of 70 to 30. So this is the output basically. So if you could see, it generated the code. So it actually generated right from the beginning, but we just need this part of code. So this part of code is used to split the data into train and test. And let's check this code. Let's run this code and see if the results are right and if it gave the right code. So for that, let me go to this part and yes, this is the code it gives. So we will import the test train module, and then basically it is using test train module from sklearn and applying it. So we have used the same. So we are dividing the data into these parts using test train split. So we want 70% of the time train data and 30% as test data. So we give test size as 0.3. So I just run the code and let's see how the train data is. So this is the code ChatGPT generated, and using that code, this is the train data. Can you spot an issue here? If you can see, the data is jumbled. It's not in chronological order. So if you already have a domain expertise with algo trading or application of ML algorithm, you would know that you can't jumble the data like this. So if for any other machine learning program or machine learning problem, most of the times you can jumble the trained data and then teach a machine learning model. But not especially in time series data like price series, you can't do that. So there is a mistake here. So this is the example of how the lack of domain expertise of ChatGPT will give you an erroneous code if you are not vigilant. So let's correct this code. So we don't want the algorithm to shuffle the data. So we will just say shuffle is equal to false. So now let's see, let's run the same thing, extract and see. Now that the shuffle is false, now the data is in a sequence. So this is the trained data, and this is the test data. So till this date, we are collecting the data and training the model. And from the very next day, we have test data. So you can see it is only 400 rows for 440 rows for test data and 1030 rows for trained data. There is also a simpler approach. You can find it in this notebook. A simpler approach would be to, instead of using external libraries, you can directly code it. Basically, you can define a ratio and split the data in that ratio. So let's see what are the results, what the results are by using this. So we got similar results. So even if you use this code, you got similar results where starting from this day to this day. You can follow either approach, but this is just to show you when you're using ML, especially taking help of ChatGPT. Be careful about these errors, and it requires domain expertise to find these errors. And also earlier we were discussing when we apply machine learning for algo trading, just creating these algorithms or machine learning models and predicting wouldn't cut it. You'd also do backtest, so which ChatGPT was not promoting or asking us to do. So these two notebooks explain how to perform analysis of strategy and also analyze the performance of particular trades. But before we blame ChatGPT, let's ask it. Let's ask it like, I want to perform analysis on strategy, and let's see what it would respond. So I gave this prompt. I asked it how to study the performance of the machine learning based algo trading algorithm. So this is its response. So again, it started with data collection, but essentially it is asking us to evaluate the model first. So since we are using a machine learning model, so asking us to understand whether the model is working well or not. And after that, now it is asking us to do the backtest. So if we go in that, it is asking us to just evaluate the performance and see how the performance is in the past. But this is not enough. This is again a vague way of explaining what to do in backtest. We need to be detailed as an algo trader. So let's go to the notebooks and see how ideally it should be done. So I'm going to the next notebook for strategy analytics. So how do you want to understand the performance of strategy? The first thing you would do is right now we have certain conditions to take positions, right? For example, we are predicting the next day's high, and according to the prediction, we are taking the positions. But generally, people would buy and hold, like they would buy on 2013 or whatever the start day is and hold for years. So if you want to have a basic understanding of how this strategy has performed, first you will compare its results with a buy and hold strategy. So just to understand whether there is an improvement or not. If there is no improvement, why do we need to deploy this algo trading strategy? We could just buy gold and hold for years, right? So this is the first step you do, which is called strategy analytics, where you could easily plot and compare the performance. So the green chart or green line indicates the strategy return. So the positions were taken as per the signals we have generated. But the red one indicates a general gold returns. And had you purchased gold in 2017, this particular October, and held till April of 2019, and this would have been your performance. So this is kind of a cumulative return. So you didn't actually make any money. So it was actually there where you were started. Your capital is same as your initial capital. But when you see our strategy, almost gave 12% returns. So this is the basic understanding you would get. But with basic understanding, you can't just go live. So you need to go in depth and do trade analytics and strategy analytics. Also, let's see what kind of metrics you would use to do this analysis. Most of you must have already heard about terms like Sharpe ratio or annualized returns, volatility of returns, etc. But there are many more metrics that gives you a detailed insight into the trades and performance. So as I was saying, Sharpe is a common measure. So like it would tell you what is the risk adjusted return. So that is there. But to understand in detail, so this is a code for that, and you need to understand at a trade level, like how many trades generated long signal, how many trades generated short signal, once you understand this, you can actually comment on your strategy, whether it is a long bias strategy or a short bias strategy. And then you would also see what is a gross profit or gross loss of the strategy, net profit, winners, losers, win percentage, standard stuff. So let's see the results. And before that, you can also visualize. Basically, you can visualize and see. And why do you need to visualize like this? See, this indicates whether long positions we have taken. See, for example, here we took a long position, here we took a long position. So just to understand whether if there is an uptrend, when are we taking the position? Are we taking at the beginning of an uptrend, or are we waiting till the uptrend subsided, etc. Just to pass a comment on the strategy. For example, this is the short trades. If you could see here, we kind of took a position at the peak, and when it is falling, also we took some positions and closed very quickly. But let's go to the numbers. So this is how the strategy is. So out of 157 trades, 80 were longs and 77 were shorts. And these are other metrics. And you can see there are more winners than losers, and we are making more money during winning phase than losing. So this is kind of a profitable strategy. And you would also do some strategy analytics. So means what is the annual return, like per year, how much are you getting, or what is the cumulative returns, like you held from 2017 to 2019, how much did you get? What is the volatility chart? These are all the standard metrics. So this is how much detailed you should be when you are analyzing the performance of trades or performance of any strategy. But this is what missing from ChatGPT. So if you ask it, it would give a textual information, because that depends on what kind of data it was trained on. So which we have no idea. And most of the technical or domain specific knowledge you could find in papers, technical papers, or high level textbooks or courses like Quantra, which may not be the data the particular ChatGPT version was trained on. So let's move forward. So now that we have understood how ML is applied even on a code level and how it is analyzed, so let's see what are all the challenges and risks of using ChatGPT when you're applying or trying to apply ML. Let's just ask ChatGPT. So I have asked ChatGPT, like, what are the challenges and risks of using ChatGPT for ML based algo trading? And I was very interested to see how it would react. Initially, I thought maybe it would support itself, but no, it was kind of honest. So it gave me this response, which is a short and sweet response. But yeah, first point it figured out was it says you can't completely rely on ChatGPT because of limited training data. For example, the current version, which is ChatGPT 3.5, was trained on data only till 2021 December, I guess, November 30 or December. So it doesn't have information beyond 2021, or if you want to get some information of 2022, you can't get it using ChatGPT. And especially you need to keep in mind that it doesn't have any access to internet, so it can't browse internet and give you like a Google search. Okay, so it was already trained on a certain amount of data. Only that data it could what do you say, it could go through that data and give you information, but it can't just get a new information. And also lack of domain expertise. We have also seen with example, we have seen a couple of examples. It lacks domain expertise. It's not an algo trader in a ChatGPT form. It's just a language model which generates text as per your prompts you give. And limited interpretability. Again, this is a comment on neural networks also. So yeah, ChatGPT will give you a response, but if you want to understand why it responded like that, and even if you ask that, it might not give you a proper reason, because that particular response was generated by a very complex neural network model, like pre-trained generative model. So basically we can't interpret why the response is like that. And most of the time it's surprising to see ChatGPT would very confidently give you false information, especially when it comes to code. So as a beginner, if you feel like, yeah, I can use ChatGPT for code, you are right in a way. You can use it for an idea generation, but you can't just copy paste the code and run it. So that is not at all advisable. And yeah, it also pointed out that you can't take time-sensitive trading decisions with ChatGPT. This is also true. So let's say you are an intraday trader or a medium frequency trader, you can't use ChatGPT because the response time is less and the accuracy checks and all will take time. It's a bit about what are all the main challenges and risks of using ChatGPT. And let's launch an interesting poll. So like, Kshitij, can you launch this poll?
Okay, so this is about what describes ChatGPT's ability to generate financial statements information and its accuracy. So option one is accurate for any company and financial period. Second one is reasonable accuracy, requires fact checking. Third one is poor and may not be suitable for financial analysis. And third one is cannot generate financial statements information. So far, we have got responses from half the audience, and we'll be closing the poll in some time. All right, so around 61% people voted, and I'm going to share the results. So 56% of the audience is saying reasonable accuracy requires fact checking, and 30% of the audience is saying poor and may not be suitable for financial analysis.
Uh, Thank you. Thanks for the poll, and thanks everyone for participating. So almost most of the people are right. First of all, yeah, it gives you with reasonable accuracy, but you need to do fact checking. And second, you can also interpret it as very poor because when it comes to analysis in finance or any kind of application in finance, you need accurate data because there is money at stake, and in addition to money, there is lots of time and effort at stake. So with reasonably accurate information, you can't move ahead. But I just wanted to try this. So I asked ChatGPT to give me some financial statement, or I asked exactly compare the yearly financial statements of Apple and Microsoft for the year 2020. Since it has no information or data available past 2021, I thought, okay, let's ask historical data. And I asked ChatGPT to compare the financial statements, basically financial ratios, etc., for these two particular stocks for year 2020, and this was his response. So it gave me 5 data points. So it gave me revenue, earnings per share, gross margins, net income, and cash and equivalents, and it just compares both companies, Apple's and Microsoft. When I read it, it looks clean, it looks clear, and I was excited because it generated in very short amount of time. But I wanted to do fact checking. So especially for the year 2020 EPS, ChatGPT says Apple's EPS was $13.03, which was not exactly accurate. So I went ahead and I went to Apple's website and downloaded this financial statement. So if you check here for the financial year 2020, the earning per share is 3.28, which was way away from what ChatGPT said. ChatGPT said 13.0. So this is a very wide gap, and it is basically a generative model. It just generates a response using the input text. So we have no information of the authenticity of the input text, and this is the main problem with using ChatGPT, especially in finance. So you would also need some domain expertise, and also by spending more time on quantitative trading related or finance related knowledge or books or courses or etc., you would get that intuition. Like if you see some information, you would think like, "Are something is wrong with this." So to gain that kind of information, I recommend you to read more books, go through lots of videos. You can also go through the courses and blogs of QuantInsti, etc. Now, before we wrap up, let's just summarize and let's see the key takeaways. So, first of all, ChatGPT is a neural network and it is trained on large amount of text data. So, its only strength is the vast corpus of data it was trained on. And yeah, you can use it to generate ideas when it comes to algo trading, or when it comes to, let's say if you want to understand a financial concept, you can ask it and it will give you a response according to the data it was trained on, but it will give you ideas. It can actually generate certain ideas. If you want to apply ML, like we already done, we have seen an example where I've asked it to give me steps that I could follow to create an ML algorithm to predict the prices for the next day, and it gave me some ideas. But just because it gave me some beautiful text, I shouldn't follow it without any checking. I need to compare it with my domain expertise and make sure the steps are right. And we can also say that it would produce wrong code very confidently, but this is because it lacks domain expertise or training on domain related data. So we are also seeing an example, like we gave a pretty general question, like splitting the data is the step you do for any machine learning algorithm. So, but when it comes to finance, there are certain domain related knowledge you need to properly apply machine learning. You can't just apply like any other data scientist. So it was unable to tell us that. And yes, it can generate erroneous information as we have seen. So even though the data is widely publicly available, most of the websites will give you right EPS information of Apple, but not ChatGPT. So these are the key takeaways for you. But I would also recommend you to check certain courses to gain domain expertise so that you can better apply machine learning. And yeah, if you want to use support from ChatGPT, then with the domain knowledge, you can actually use it in a proper way. So we have learning tracks. We have learning tracks are set of courses. So I would recommend you to check these courses like track 4 and track 5. So I would tell you how to find them. You can go to a course page and you can go to learning tracks. So this is where you can find learning tracks. For example, these are the learning tracks recommended if you want to gain expertise in machine learning. And I would show you what are all the courses. So it has these many courses. So there are a few free courses as well, and there are other courses. Even though they are paid, you can actually go through the courses. For example, today I've shown you 4 notebooks from this course, which is trading with machine learning regression. So if you want to access those notebooks, so you can access them. So for the next 24 hours, you can access these particular 4 notebooks we have discussed now and better understand the code. And you can just click on free preview and it will take you to those courses. So just make sure you remember the section. Section is 7 and the course is trading with machine learning regression. So for the next 24 hours, you have free access or free preview for these 4 notebooks. So you can study the things we have discussed and revise. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you learned a bit about how algo trading uses ChatGPT, especially for ML application, and what are all the pitfalls. So like we can start our question and answer session. And over to you, Sajesh.
Thank you so much for a wonderful session, Varun. And I will now request everyone to put their questions in the question panel. And meanwhile, I would also like to share about our upcoming Mega Quant sale. So starting tomorrow, we'll be offering up to 82% discount on all Quantra courses. This offer will start early for all the webinar attendees with additional benefits. So as you can see, for the next 4 hours, attendees of this webinar can avail flat 77% off on any Contra courses by using this coupon code. And instead of 82, you can get flat 85% off on all Contra courses by using all 85. So I have shared the link in the chat section, so you can visit the page and identify all the favorite courses of yours. And if you are going to enroll in all courses, then you can definitely go for the flat 85% off. With that, I will now we'll start with the Q&A session. So I can see there are tons of questions already there, and there are so many questions. We have to start somewhere. So uh,
So, hmm. So let me pick some questions. And there was this question by Sukhwinder Singh. So basically, he was asking, is ChatGPT only as good as model that it builds on and the input data? Financial market change every day. Can ChatGPT keep up with these daily changes in macroeconomic conditions? So that's the pretty common question everyone would get, even when the ChatGPT was released. These are the questions that ran in my mind. But sadly, no. Since it's a language model, it's as good as the data it was trained on. And also, it is not updated every day. And as discussed earlier, it doesn't have information or a connection to internet. So it can't keep up with the data that is changing every day, especially in the current macroeconomic scenario. Unless your model or you are equipped with the recent changes in data, you can't be in the game. So I hope I answered your question, Sukhvinder. And
There are many people in audience asking about the sessions recording. It will be recorded and shared with your email, and it is also available on our YouTube channel. So all of you can check that out. And there is also a question on will you share this notebook? So as mentioned by Varun, this notebook is available for next 24 hours on the course preview. So you can check out that course and you'll have the access to that.
yes, it is. So all the 4 notebooks will be available. So you can access them. You can access them for the next 24 hours. So let me go to the next question. The question was from Pratik. So the question was, what is pipeline in machine learning? So, it's a technical question, but pipeline, as the name says, basically there are several steps in machine learning, right? What are all the common steps? First, you would do, like you would collect the data, then pre-process the data, do feature engineering, you select the model, all these things. So you create a pipeline such that when you have a new data, you just need to run the data through the pipeline. You don't need to do every step individually. So this is a technical name and an intuitive name as well. So it's called machine learning pipeline, and you can actually access the course and see, like you can learn about the pipeline and see how it is implemented. So I hope I've answered that question. So next one is from Lorraine Wong. And yeah, this is an interesting question. So asking, can ChatGPT also give good response to converting a vectorized Python code into one that can be deployed into live trading? Yeah, it's an interesting question. Looks like Lorraine has a bit of a technical knowledge of domain expertise. Since you're talking about vectorized Python code, and you're asking if it can be live traded. So when you are going for live trading, you go for event-based code basically. So I guess you already know that. But can ChatGPT give you? Yeah, you could ask it to convert a vectorized code to event-based code, but you need to define the event, right? So a vectorized code may not completely define the event, may not have all the stop loss, take profit, or risk metrics or risk models involved in it. So as a algo trader, you would have better clarity on what are the trigger events that triggers the signals and also triggers the exits, etc. It might give you a basic idea of basically what are the steps you could take, but it can't absolutely give you code, or it can't absolutely give you the exact code you could follow. So hope I've answered that. And the next question was from Timothy. You're asking, can you generate the finance statement for 2022? As of now, no. The current active version is ChatGPT 3.5, which was trained on data only till the end of 2021, so we can't have information of 2022. But there are times it might give you some information when you get prompt, but yeah, that can't just trust that. And the next question was from Atulya Narayan. What was the trading strategy utilizing next day's high and lows? Did you ML to optimize the strategy? Yes, Atulya. So this was optimized and it was actually tested all the performance metrics. So you can access the notebooks and understand the strategy and also see how it had performed. I hope I've answered that. And the next question, Siti, did you find any interesting questions? There is a question asking about any discounts for full-time students. Maybe I want to opt out for a few days. So Ravi Atma.
For student discounts, yes, there may be some student discounts, so you can connect with our team and they'll be able to help you with that. There are a few more questions, like one asked by Gautam on RNN. You can pick that.
Okay. Yeah, is RNN still relevant for time series data or new models have come out for OHS data? Okay, so again, looks like Gautam has a bit of a domain knowledge, and he was asking whether recurrent neural networks RNN are still relevant. So it depends on the problem statement, Gautam. But since it is time series data, and as any trader would know that the information that came 3 days ago also would have impact today. So if you use RNN, this kind of dependency on the past data would be missing. That's why we have LSTM, which is long short-term memory neural networks, which are widely used when you predicting time series, especially stock market related data. So you can check our courses also on that and blog as well. And yeah, the short answer would be they are not completely relevant now. And yeah, you can use LSTM instead of RNN. And I hope I answered that. And the next question was from Siddharth Saxena. So he was asking, can you explain some applications of deep learning in trading? Yes. So deep learning in trading, basically deep learning, first of all, you should understand what deep learning is. So it is different from other kinds of machine learning like the linear regression. So deep learning creates certain agents. So we create an environment. First of all, it's like a playground for a kid. Okay. So if you want to teach a kid to do certain actions in the playground, first you just drop him in the playground and let him do mistakes. Instead of teaching him all the right things, you might as well punish him when he's doing wrong things and reward him when he's right things, so that he will be properly embedded in his neural network. So this is a basic idea of using deep learning or an approach you would take. And when it comes to applications, there are many applications. For example, the most basic application would be for time series forecasting. So you would use deep learning, and you would actually combine that with machine learning, like other machine learning techniques. You can also use reinforcement learning. So what is deep in deep learning? So if you're using certain in-depth neural networks, it's called deep learning. But if you're using agents, it's called reinforcement learning. So you can combine these two and create certain deep reinforcement learning algorithms and use it for time series forecasting. You can also use for optimizing your portfolios. So you can use these deep learning algorithms to tell you what should be the ratio of the stocks or components of a portfolio. You can also use it for risk management. You can create certain risk models that can gradually improve the performance of your strategy. Let's say you have a strategy and it is performing in certain way, then you can apply these methods to improve. It may not optimize the strategy, but it would optimize the entry and exit of the strategy, which eventually turn into your alpha, which you can collect. And yeah, like we were discussing in the seminar, you can use it for sentiment analysis. Like you can give it a piece of text, like the sentiment. Let's say you can give it the financial information or financial statement of particular stock, and let it understand the sentiment and give you certain scores. And yeah, these are the common ways you can use deep learning or deep reinforcement learning. I hope I've answered your question. So next question is from, okay, let me check. There are many questions.
There's a question by Dinesh, if you can take that. Dinesh Mehrotra.
Okay. How long do you think it would take to be able to reliably use CG and algo in a reliable manner and good enough to risk your savings? So when he says CG, I guess he is referring to ChatGPT. So first of all, there are two core components here. He is asking how long would it take to reliably use CG and algo to make good amount of money. See, it's not about how long it would take, it's about your domain expertise. See, the fundamental theory wouldn't change, and when whatever new tool comes, that is depending on fundamental theory of ML or artificial intelligence. It's all about how good you are in domain at your domain knowledge and how intuitive you are in converting your problems or converting the problems of your domain and seeking solutions in these areas like application of algorithms or application of ChatGPT or whatever tool you find. So the main factor here is your knowledge and your intuition. That's why even I have added some recommended learning tracks so that you can easily gain those expertise and intuition. But yeah, we can't comment like how long it would take for the AI algorithms to evolve because they are pretty much evolved. So we should equip ourselves with respectful knowledge so that we can take advantage of the current technologies. So hope I've answered your question, Mr. Dinesh. So next question is from Carlos Montano. how could ChatGPT help me manage my risk in intraday trades based on historical data of my operations? That is to say, how will it manage my risk? Like, give me data on probability of success in my next operation. So basically, Carlos would want ChatGPT to help him understand how we can control the risk in his intraday trades. Basically, he wants to input his trade data to ChatGPT, and he is expecting ChatGPT to tell how risky it is for him to, or how probable for him to make loss. This is a problem statement you would want to approach using machine learning or any kind of AI technique, but this is not related to ChatGPT because ChatGPT might give you some ideas, but we need to brainstorm ourselves, understand our domain properly. And for example, if you're saying you would want to give trade data to certain algorithm and let it tell you how risky it is, first of all, it should know what are the logics behind those trades and what are the models or hypotheses behind those trades. Only an algo trader or people who created that would know, or people with domain knowledge would know. So that's the reason I keep on saying, if you have a particular problem or a use statement in mind, it's better to gain domain knowledge around it and then start coding by yourself than relying on any other tool, because they might give you some code, but without your mental models or proper understanding of the domain, you can't move ahead with the solution. I hope I answered your question, Mr. Carlos. So let's pick one more. So there are many questions that are going on. Let me select one. So there was a question on difference between EPAT and contra courses. So EPAT is an executive course which spans across 6 months, and it has its own curriculum, which is very extensive and which will take you from a beginner to an advanced as intermediate in algo trading in the span of 6 months. Where at the end of the executive program, you would also be you'll also create trading algorithms as a part of your project. But Quantra is completely different to EPAT. Quantra are self-paced courses. So there are more than 60 courses in the curriculum where if you already have certain knowledge in algo trading, you can pick the topics you want to gain expertise in. Even if you are a beginner with absolutely no knowledge, there are also courses which are foundational courses. So in general, it would take like any time between 3 hours to 8 hours for you to finish the courses. But EPAT is different. EPAT has a complete curriculum where it will take you from the beginning till the advanced concept. It spans for 6 months. So that's the difference between EPAT and Contra. So, Mr. Siddhij, should we wrap up, or do you have any more interesting questions? Because I see a sea of questions and I already picked the most interesting ones.
There are also a few. So if you can see this one, it's a long question actually, asked by Valerie.
Okay, let me find it. Couldn't find it.
It was asked at 7:55.
Okay. Okay, let me see. 7:55, isn't it? Yes. So can you give me a bit of guidance on how to best use ChatGPT for translation of algo trading code from one environment coding language of development to another? For example, from TradeStation easy language into Python or whatever framework like Blueshift or Metacode. If you have any experience in automation of this, please. So first of all, there are two types of programming languages. Some are platform specific. For example, there are certain programming languages which are trading platform specific. So that programming language is specifically designed only for that trading platform, and nobody else other than the consumers of the trading platform would use that code. That's for efficiency. If you want to convert that kind of code into a Python code, ChatGPT may not help you because you cannot know whether it was trained on that. But if you have any generic codes, generic programs like converting from Python to Java or HTML, or converting from MATLAB code into Python code, it could help you. But again, it can't give you error-free code. It can guide you. Of course, if you give it a code and ask it to convert to another code, like from Python to C++, it can generate code. But the word generate is important. It's just generated. You need to do the fact check. You can't just copy paste it and expect it to run error-free. So I hope I've answered your question.
Wonderful. I think there are still a few questions, but we are running out of time. So I think it's time to wrap up today's learning session. So I would thank you again. Thank you so much, Varun, for taking out your valuable time and conducting such a wonderful session. And I'm sure our audience has thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, to our audience, in case any of your questions went unanswered due to the limited time we had at hand, we would love to connect and address all your questions individually. So please make sure that you mention those questions at the end of the webinar in the webinar survey, and we'll be happy to address you individually. And obviously, also make sure that if you are looking to enroll in any of our courses, I can also share a link where you can, if you have any confusion like which course to pick and which not to pick, or this is the current programming knowledge I have and which courses are most relevant for me. So you can connect with our team, connect with the team of course counselors on this link, and they'll be able to guide you with the right course. And with that said, I will see you in the next webinar. And till then, please take care and have a great day ahead. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks everyone for attending.